This is WIS Awareness.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks for joining us today on Awareness. I'm your host, Leland Pender. It has been quite a week for Democrats here at home in South Carolina and across the nation. As of this taping of the program, we've seen the first debate of the Democratic presidential candidates. Let's take a recap.
Making their mark in Miami, the first Democratic debate of the 2020 election cycle kicking off Wednesday night.
This Democratic Party has to be strong and bold and progressive.
What's been missing is courage.
10 candidates filling a crowded debate stage, the first of two back-to-back NBC News debates. The goal for most, make their pitch to voters and leverage the nationally televised event to leave a lasting impression.
No, I'm very different than everyone else here on the stage. Prior to being in Congress, I was an entrepreneur.
I'm proud of standing up for unions.
If you go to Guantanamo Bay, there are terrorists that are held that get better health care than those kids that have tried to cross the border in the United States.
Center stage and among the top-tier candidates, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren.
I want to see us get a Democratic majority in the Senate. But short of a Democratic majority in the Senate, you better understand, the fight still goes on.
As well as a handful of other popular candidates hoping their performance will give them a boost in the polls.
Millionaires can pay off their yachts. Students should be able to pay off their student loans.
This economy has got to work for everyone.
The candidates tackling a series of issues from immigration, the economy, equal pay, to healthcare and foreign policy.
I would sign an executive order that would get rid of Trump's zero-tolerance policy.
I know the importance of our national security, as well as the terribly high cost of war. I just want to say there's 3 women up here that have fought pretty hard for a woman's right to choose.
Healthcare is not just a human right, it should be an American right.
One person not on the stage, yet still very present, President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump just sits in the White House and gloats about what's going on.
The biggest threat to the security of the United States is Donald Trump.
All right, that's what happened. Our thanks to CNN for that. And this morning, I'm joined by Ashley Wilkerson, the local activist, a Democratic activist, Trav Robertson, the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, as well as Jim Felder, one of the first African Americans elected to the State House and head of the South Carolina Voter Education Project. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Here. All right, well, let's dive on in. You just saw the package there. You probably watched the debate live overnight. Initial thoughts. What are your takeaways? We'll just go down the line here. Ashley.
I was proud to be a Democrat last night. I felt that every single one of them showed last night why they're in this race. They were knowledgeable, they were informed for the vast majority of them, and they were able to communicate their issues in a passionate way. And so, you know, it left us believing that any of them could hold the office.
Trev?
I agree 100%. The fact is that it was a good night to be a Democrat. All of those individuals on stage could perform better than Donald Trump. And I thought it was a good night. I think Delaney had some good moments. I think that Klobuchar had good moments. I think Castro taking on O'Rourke was an interesting dynamic. We talked earlier in the green room that there may be some old animosity that we don't know about. And I thought de Blasio, he tried to level himself as the real fighter for progressive causes last night. And so it's going to be an interesting evening tonight to see how we compare the 10 that go this evening.
Definitely. Jim?
Let me just say ditto to what Ashley tried to say. They've taken my thunder. But I totally enjoyed it. All the candidates seemed to be knowledgeable. But I did, the takeaway I had was from the 2 Texans, Castro and Beto. But it's a good feel. And then, of course, you got another debate tonight, and I'm looking forward to that also. But any of those candidates would be better than what we have in the White House.
So, overall, were you pleased with what you heard? Was there anything missing from last night, in your view?
I was pleased, and you know, I would also like to add, I was pleased with the women in particular. They were all strong, they were all informed, they were all firm in their delivery. I thought the women were amazing.
And they had command of the stage
they did.
As well. And in South Carolina, where you had almost 1 million women vote last November out of the 1.7 million people, almost 1 million were women. That could be a deciding factor in this primary.
I would have liked to have heard a little more on health care, given what is happening here in South Carolina with hospitals closing. Sure, there was some discussion about single payer and Warren, but I wanted to hear more on health care. that's the single issue for me this time around.
Okay, and that was kind of a sticking point briefly in the debate when the majority of people who were on the stage said they would vote for that system that goes all the way toward Medicare for all. And a lot of the others say they did not want to see that happen right away or in that way. What did you think about that, Trav?
But only 2 raised their hands when they said they would give up their current health care or private health care in replacement or replaced by a Medicare for all system. I thought that was very telling as well.
It was, yes.
So comparing last night, what we've seen so far, to 2016, when there were 16, 17 Republicans in this race, fighting for their nomination, were there any parallels or similarities, or I guess the contrast, rather, between that field and this field?
I think they were more mature.
There's no question about that.
I think they were far more mature. You didn't hear a lot of jabbing and a lot of name calling. You know, we did comment on the one shade that we did hear between Castro and Beto, but for the majority of the evening, they stuck to emphasizing their contributions, things that they've done in their trajectory, projects that they've completed, implemented, and what they were knowledgeable about. And I think they stuck to that more so than trying to jab at each other, and it made for a very healthy and informative debate.
Do you think some people have an appetite for that? Because obviously and clearly the president does take personal attacks at people at various times, and some people don't seem to be fazed by that. So it's great to have a policy discussion, but do people care about that stuff?
Well, I think we have to remember that Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote. But I often say that, I was raised by a liberal, my mother, who believed that logical, rational debate wins things, convinces anybody. And my father, who was a Democrat that just beat the SOBs. But, so we've got to find that happy medium between not losing our core issues and not being able to talk about those, but at the same time taking the fight to Trump. Because at the end of the day, Trump bested the best of the Republican field.
So, of course, at the time of this taping, we haven't seen the second round of candidates debate just yet, but that's coming up on Thursday night. What do you want to see? More health care is important to you as well. Is there anything else, Jim?
More health care is most important to me. Civility next is most important to me, which we don't have now. And I want to see these candidates talk more about that. We don't want them this debate to end with them snapping at each other in a circle of firing squad and have what happened in 1972 when you had 15 Democratic candidates end up they're fighting among themselves and Nixon won re-election. So you don't want a repeat of that this time around.
One last question here. I think we have about a minute and a half. We had that package that aired on its own, and this segment is separate from that. So one last question here. What can South Carolina or South Carolinians take away from the first round of debates last night? Any particular issues that we can really kind of latch on to?
I will say 2 in particular. The first is that it's refreshing to see, for the most part, that all the Democrats are on the same page. A lot of them had the same perspective. They were discussing the same points, and they were pretty much common on the same issues. So I would say to be refreshed in knowing that our party is getting stronger and moving forward unified front. But the second is for them to make sure they're doing due diligence to learn about all of the candidates as much as possible. Specifically, since we're here in South Carolina and they're all making their way here, Travis did a great job this past weekend. 20 of them were here. 23 were here this past weekend. I've personally met and spoke to 15 of them, and I'm asking all of them about education when I meet them. So if there's a topic that you're most concerned about, like health care, ask them, go to them, meet them, greet them, see them, and get your questions answered.
And you definitely have that chance right now because they are going to be in our state so much.
Coming.
And my takeaway, go ahead,
that was the great part about it. South Carolinians, even the little guy on the street, had an opportunity to see the candidates, meet them, shake hands with them. It was good for South Carolina, who always say, we don't know who's running. Well, you got a chance to see it, and they had a chance to see it, and we'll continue to see it tonight.
They sure will. Quick break this morning. Back here on WIS Awareness.
If you're in a car wreck, everyone knows what to do. Dial all twos.
The jury gave us a $5 million verdict for our client who was injured in a head-on collision.
Don't scream. Call a team.
To get your attorney, dial all twos now.
Every internet and TV provider promises you their best, but the other guys have that. And this little mark hides some big restrictions, like the fact you have to sign a contract. And they have early termination fees. And that you'll have to pay extra for an internet modem and security software. With Spectrum, you get our best every day, with no contracts, no early termination fees, and dozens of extras free. Like a free modem and security suite with Spectrum Internet, delivering more speed more consistently for the best surfing, streaming, and gaming. Get Spectrum Internet for $44.99 a month. Call 855-646-4499. Then enjoy the best in entertainment with Spectrum TV, with more HD and more free on demand. Get Spectrum TV from $44.99 a month. Upgrade to the best. Get Spectrum Internet and TV from $44.99 a month each. Call 855-646-4499.
Everyone knows the Southeastern Spine Institute creates medical documentaries on spine health. They're all about the latest medical procedures that help people get out of pain and back to their active lives. Now, you can stream any of our shows to learn more. Just go to southeasternspine.com/streaming. Watch stories from real patients about how new medical advancements are helping people live without pain. And to make your own appointment, call 866-SPINE50 now. No referral is needed.
Car insurance and cell phone plans. You're probably paying too much.
Maybe you can get a better deal elsewhere.
The steps to saving that could be easier than you think.
Good drivers could save up to $400.
Don't miss Watching Your Wallet, Tuesday at 6 on WIS News 10.
And welcome back this morning to Awareness. I'm your host, Leland Pender. Getting back to our great panel assembled this morning. Jim, I want to start with you as the head of the South Carolina Voter Education Project. This election cycle, what are some of the tools and methods that you're using to really engage people and get them involved in this process?
We're coordinating with every organization that says it's interested in voter turnout this time around. We're only doing 55% turnout. And what happens when that happens? You lose. 76%, you win. Obama won when we had a 76% turnout. Mm-hmm. That has not happened since that time. So the focus is going to be on sororities, fraternities, NAACP chapters, coalescing with those groups as we've done in the past years ago. We're going to get back to that, those grassroots where you go out into the community and rally these people to turn out. Mm-hmm. Who said it, that all politics are local? Tip O'Neill?
Tip O'Neill.
Yes, and it's still that way. Mm-hmm. You've got to work the community. You got to work with the people in the community. And so that's our focus this time around, so we can get a 78% turnout. And if we do that, we can turn South Carolina from red to blue, at least purple.
So what are the challenges with that? Because as you mentioned, it was 75, 76 for
correct. For Obama.
Yeah.
Because it was Obama. Because it was Obama, they turned out. Now, the challenge now is to wake people up. And the convention and these debates are beginning to do that. People are now beginning to look a little bit harder at the candidates since they've had a chance to meet them and see them, touch them. So I think we're going to have an easier time trying to rally people to turn out next time around.
Trev, how do you talk to people who are not a part of the party or maybe are unaffiliated and you want to kind of sway them to vote Democratic? Of course, Republicans do the same thing. You always want to reach as many voters as possible, but how do you do that effectively?
One of the things I've been doing as it relates to immigration is that, you know, my father got his Ph.D. from the New Orleans Theological Baptist Seminary. My mom and dad, they lived there. And so I grew up in a family that was not afraid to discuss religion. And, you know, growing up in South Carolina, you go to church. And, you know, I was sitting in a restaurant and there were these two pastors having a conversation. And I finally had all I could take, and I stood up and I said, where in this Bible does it say the Lord wants you to separate mamas and daddies from their children and throw them in cages? That's a sin against God and a stain on our humanity. And so I think part of what I try to do is to frame the debate. These are moral and religious issues we're talking about. You know, there's nothing in the Bible that says they want you to choose between feeding your family and your breast cancer treatments. So at the end of the day, we as Democrats have to frame our debate and not lose our sight of what we're trying to accomplish here. And it's not just the presidency, but it's making sure that people in this state have health care, making sure that people in this state have food, making sure that we have a quality education. And my goal, I think that what I learned, rather, from the Democratic Convention is that we as Democrats have seemed to understand the mistake we made in 2016 when we would not come together behind one candidate. I did not get that feeling this past weekend that no matter which candidate, I say it's like the Golden Corral buffet. You've got something for everybody to eat. But I sense that we are all going to coalesce behind one candidate at the end of the day because we realize what we did to ourselves in 2016.
It can be a challenge with so many options, but you know that unity is definitely what you're going for. Talking about some of the issues you just touched on, immigration a little bit there, that I can remember right now, immigration, women's reproductive rights, and also Iran. That whole situation there were very hot topics. Did the candidates kind of articulate their positions effectively during that debate?
I think for the most part they did. I think that you saw where they differed in opinion, which was good and healthy, because you don't necessarily want cookie cutter candidates. You don't want them all to, agree and, only agree with each other. We do want them to get along. We do want them to be unified, but we do want to see difference in opinion and difference of thought in how they are going to handle and approach different situations. So though I think they effectively shared their thoughts last night, I think they did it in a healthy way where they all shared different perspectives about same issues so that we can be informed voters and so that we can stretch our thinking and knowledge base particular to each issue versus what comes on the news solely.
Last question here. We're going to zero in on one of those issues, women's reproductive rights. What do you think about that conversation that took place last night on the stage? Would you compare it to what's happened across the country in a couple of states with essentially abortion bans?
Well, not as a woman. I think that, Vicki Ringer and the work she's doing at Planned Parenthood is outstanding. But at the end of the day, the legislators that make those decisions have to remember two things. Almost every single House district and Senate district in this state has anywhere from 5 to 15% more registered women. We as Democrats have to start communicating to those women and find women to run for office. And that would help eliminate some of the intrusion on health care rights for women across this state and, in fact, America. And I also think that we, as a party, have to get back to focusing on recruiting women to run for office.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Another quick break this morning, and more with our great panel here on the Democrats right now as we head to 2020 when we come back.
Coming this fall to WIS. If you believe you have been discriminated against, call the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission at 803-737-7800. Talk to us, report it, and we will investigate it. We prevent and eliminate unlawful discrimination. The service we provide is free. Call us at 803-737-7800 or go to our website at schhac.sc.gov.
At Kroger, we are eliminating waste to zero to reduce hunger to zero. We're partnering with Feeding America to make more food donations to local food banks and with World Wildlife Fund to end food waste. But we can't do it alone, and we hope you'll join us in creating a world with zero hunger and zero waste. Visit thekrogerco.com to learn how you can help.
I called Shelly Leak, and she got me $30,000.
$65,000. That's what Shelly Leak got me.
Injured in a car wreck? Do what your friends, family, and neighbors have been doing for years. Call 803-567-5000 or go to callshellynow.com.
I was hurt bad. Shelly Leak got me $200,000.
You've been hurt in a car wreck? Call me now. 803-567-5000 or callshellynow.com.
Welcome back this morning. Let's get back into it right away Joe Biden, he is one of the front runners right now, along with Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris. Is it going to be tough for these other candidates to kind of get up to those guys' level and their speed right now? Let's start talking about Joe.
Well, let's talk about Joe.
Yeah.
Because Joe was given a history lesson when he was sharing with the public the situation with Eastland and that time, that era. You got to remember, if you don't remember, Eastland was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Thurgood Marshall was up for a seat on the federal court. Bobby Kennedy was trying to get Eastland to let Thurgood Marshall out of committee. Eastland would not. He called Bobby Kennedy, said, my roommate wants to be a federal judge. Now, if you push him up to the bench, then I'll give you the nigger. That's what Eastland said. Well, this was a time when you had to work with people like that. And that's what Joe was trying to say to you, that there was an era. There was a point where that happened. The other thing was the Brown versus Board of Education decision. Briggs versus Elliott, out of Clarendon County. First case, gets to the Supreme Court. But what happened? It ended up being Brown versus the Board of Education. Why? Because Earl Warren wanted a unanimous decision from the judges. And you had some ex-Klansmen in the Supreme Court at that time. So instead of making it Briggs versus Elliott, Southern state, in the face of these Southerners, he put Brown on top. And it worked.
Yep.
What a
packaged
time.
it.
Yes, what a time.
And that's why I didn't get as offended about the comment. You know, you have to kind of dig into it, and you have to know the historical perspective.
Exactly.
He is what we would reference as a white allied academia. Basically, you need white people to work on your behalf at a time when African Americans weren't present at the table to have the discussion on behalf of our own community.
So are y'all telling me that the media is making more out of this than they're...
I believe so, yeah.
I do too.
I believe they took 3 words or
Heard it
however
here
many
first.
and they ran with it. And so you have to kind of do your due diligence and listen to the entire synopsis versus
And
reading
look back,
just 3
and look back at the
taglines.
historical perspective of it. You got it, yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to things back here at home. The South Carolina Democratic Convention just took place. Had a big old fish fry. Jen Clyburn.
It was really world famous. It lived up to the name.
You had all the candidates there before the debates. How did things go overall, Trav? You're kind of the head man here.
You know, I get teary-eyed thinking about it. I did not want to embarrass my state. And I think that we did not embarrass the state. We didn't embarrass the party. And it was something that most people didn't think we could pull off. We ran on time. The dinner ran about 30 minutes long. And I know that everybody wanted to get to the fish fry. But I think it was an actual success, and it showed that Democrats are alive and well. From my understanding, we had the largest sit-down dinner ever in the exhibition hall at the convention center, and Saturday was the largest event that had ever been hosted there. I think we probably had about 3,000 people on Saturday.
Easily.
7,000 people at the fish fry.
Yep.
Did you make it in?
I was first in line.
That's right.
For the fish, I was first.
Now, you all did face some criticism, though, on the outset. Kind of address that. Why were the live broadcasting rights only assigned to that one network, MSNBC?
Well, and the fascinating thing about it is this, is that was a false story created by a C-SPAN anchor who called our office and was verbally aggressive and vulgar and profanity-laced tirades to 2 of my staffers. And I'm not going to deal with people who berate 2 22-year-olds who've been working their tails off to pull something together. And at the end of the day, if we asked C-SPAN to come cover the dinner, and they said no. And if they had come in that night and put their cameras up, you know, I think everything would have been fine. We had over 158 credentialed press, 60 different news outlets, and 6 news agencies from 6 different continents in the world. The fact is that CNN covered it live, Fox started airing it live, and MSNBC. So there was never a document signed. It was an agreement, and I can understand the words exclusive rights won't be uttered from anybody in our office again. But at the end of the day, this was a false story created by a news anchor who didn't get his way, and then he created a fake story saying we were barring press and put it in the Washington Examiner. And I call on C-SPAN to investigate Mr. Scully's behavior and his actions and his creating a fake article and his treatment of my staff.
Okay, and did that have any effect on how things kind of got started? that weekend?
Well, no. I mean, it was part of the story as we moved forward. But the truth is, it just made people want to be there more. And at the end of the day, I spoke with my colleagues across the country. I spoke with our congressmen, and I made sure that everybody knew what was happening. And at no time were we ever going to keep. I mean, South Carolina educational television is one of the most important things we have in this state. There's never going to be a moment when we don't allow them to come in and do something like that.
All right, 1 minute here left this morning. Some closing thoughts here. Just overall, looking forward to 2020 and facing President Trump. Do you think of course you think it can be done, but I guess how excited are you? How much are you looking forward to this?
I'm pretty excited. Yes. I mean, we just got to make sure we don't underestimate Donald Trump. Anybody that can read Nielsen ratings knows how to read polling data.
Okay.
And we got to run like we're scared.
That's right.
Yep.
All right.
Don't stop. Work hard. Get to know the candidates. Support who the Democratic nominee is. At the end of the day, support your candidate. But if your candidate does not make it to the end, get on board, because the ultimate goal is to be in the White House.
Unity is your goal, and to be in the White House. Thanks so much. A quick break. We'll be right back.
Nothing brings us together quite like breakfast at McDonald's. Your morning starts here. Wake up to a Chicken McGriddles or a McChicken biscuit for just $1.59 each.
Battery power, made by Steel. One battery, multiple tools. Right now, save $30 on the FSA 56 with purchase of the BGA 56 battery blower set. Visit SteelDealers.com.
In today's growing economy, you know it's necessary. Businesses are changing and finding the tools, resources, and partnerships to expand and modernize. SCMEP offers numerous services that will help your company advance into the future. Whether you're looking for robotics, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, or cybersecurity, we offer it all. For over 30 years, SCMEP has equipped small and medium-sized manufacturers with the resources to move forward. Make the future yours at SCMEP.org.
Nothing brings us together quite like breakfast at McDonald's. Your morning starts here. Wake up to a Chicken McGriddles or a McChicken biscuit for just $1.59 each.
And my thanks again to Ashley, Trav, and Jim. And thank you for watching. That's our show for this Sunday. We'll see you back here next time.
Carrick in the Carolinas, everyone knows you dial all 2.